Hey everyone, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you for helping me reach 100 subscribers. I honestly couldn't have done this without your love, support, and constant encouragement. Every like, comment, and subscribe means a lot to me. Now let's keep this journey going. Our next target is 200 subscribers, and I know we can do it together. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's grow as a family. Thank you once again. At Marineford, Marco makes the ultimate sacrifice, taking the killing blow meant for Luffy. But death doesn't end the life of a phoenix. Instead of fading away, he's reborn in an entirely different world. A world of chakra, shinobi, and hidden villages. And worst of all, he wakes up as Naruko Uzumaki, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Now a former Whitebeard commander trapped in a ninja's body, Marco must survive Konoha's politics, master chakra instead of devil fruits, and deal with a giant fox sealed inside him. The ninja world thinks it understands the Nine Tails. Disclaimer. This story do not belong to me. The author is Of Flaming Feathers and Bloodstained Furs by Zelga Lim Lee. Respect to author.
Chapter 1. Part 1. The Phoenix and His Flames. Ever since the war started, Marco kept a really close eye on Oyaji. As much as he doesn't want him to fight, the old man could not be reasoned with and charges head on to fight their enemies. Kizaru is starting to annoy him and he feels that the said admiral is starting to gain the upper hand since he lets himself be distracted. But then things started to turn against them when Squart attacked the old man with lies sprouting from his mouth. Knowing that he was tricked and could not easily put the blame on him, Marco rushes towards his captain. Blaming himself would go nowhere, and at that time, he wanted to curse his ability for being useless. Why can he heal himself but not the others? Damn it. But then a distraction came and there he finally met Monkey D. Luffy. The boy Ace couldn't shut his mouth off ever since he acquired his little brother's first wanted poster. It was a miracle, somewhat. Being here in a league way out of his own. The boy manages to save Ace despite all the obstacles that faced him. Of course, with a little help from him and the others. Now, all they need to do is leave that place and never came back. However, fate still has something in store for them. Akainu started to badmouth their captain, and knowing the devotion the fire user has for their father figure, Ace remains rooted on his spot. Marco had the urge to face-palm himself and curse Ace out loud. But then, things started to change when the said admiral faced the young boy who risked everything to save the same brother he and the rest of his nakama are trying to rescue. The boy's adrenaline started to wane out. Who know the obstacles the straw hat-wearing pirate encountered when he infiltrated Impel Down earlier? Thinking about it, Marco knew it was plain impossible, yet the boy did prove he was wrong all along. At that exact moment, Marco knew what he has to do. With one last look towards Oyaji, his other siblings in Ace's frozen form, he removed the shackles preventing his devil fruit ability and flew towards the D brothers at a very alarming speed. With a deep breath, he let his flames to spread out. Of course, he got centuries of practice to perfect this one special move. And the only person he could talk to was the boy himself. The rookie who happens to be the center of that particular moment, Ace's beloved brother and Oyaji's chosen. It might take a while, but please tell my brothers that I will be back, Yoi, Marco said with a wide smile on his face, ignoring the blood trickling from the corner of his lips. He can feel the bastard's hand making a hole on his chest. Damn, his mark will need to be replaced. Luffy started to cry and the Phoenix does not know what to tell him next. Falling to his knees after the admiral almost tossed him away, he grinned morbidly and stood his ground. Akainu took a step back alarmingly. Raising one bloodied hand, he placed it in front of the young boy's heart and let his other hand wipes the teen's tears. Don't cry, Yoi. Everything is going to be alright. Letting his flames do their task, Marco dissolved into flares of blue and let it engulf everyone he holds dear. With a smirk, Marco felt the satisfaction in his bleeding heart as he turned and saw Akainu's murderous reaction as well as the surprised gazes of every marine when all of the pirates they are fighting with, even the gatecrashers, disappear with flames of blue and white. And then, Marco felt nothing as he dissolved into nothingness. It was an empty void. Despite it all, the mighty Phoenix welcomed it with open arms. Chapter 3. Part 2. When he woke up, he never expected to find himself in a very comfortable situation. His previous rebirths oftentimes brought him to unpleasant accommodations that brought a bitter taste in his mouth when thinking about it. This time though, it feels different. As the door opens, he saw a young woman with red markings on her face. She was followed by 3 dogs, who upon opening the door rushes directly towards his cage and sniffs at him. Marco remembers Stefan, who does the same whenever he saw him in his Phoenix form. Just great, Yoi. Oh, you're awake. That's good. The woman noted happily as she took the medical apparatus handed by one of her canine companions. Opening the door to his cage, the woman held him gently and was placed on top of a table near the window. You should be okay in a few days. But I suggest that you avoid using your wings until I say so. With an angry look, the woman stares at him pensively. I don't understand how someone can do this to a defenseless animal. Lips curling in distaste, the woman growled menacingly as her pets imitate her reaction. Oh, our Hannah believes in equality for all living creatures, and despite your current condition, she doesn't tolerate cruelty among animals. The biggest of the three mentally stated towards him. Even if we don't know why you look like an animal, even if the smell is all wrong. The light-colored one added with a frown. Without showing his surprise, Marco doesn't know if this method of communication is a new ability he acquired after his current rebirth. Before, he does not understand any animal languages. The three dogs are helpful enough in providing important information about his current predicament, even to the caution of the third one. Heya Hana-ne-sama, hope you're doing well today. And this person who found him. Staring towards a pair of cerulean blue, much lighter than his own eyes, Marco could not help this feeling that his life is about to change. Her name is Uzumaki Naruto. I'm glad that you're doing better now. Grinning cheerfully as she pets him softly, Marco can see the uncertainty behind those eyes. She is afraid. Of what? A puzzle he needed to solve. Someone as young as her who is wearing a mask for whatever reason. Just like Ace. Perhaps he can stay for a while knowing that his family is safe. Hopefully, Vista and the other commanders will be able to corral the hothead and regroup to fix the damage caused by that stupid war. Consider it a well-deserved vacation. Or a wishful thinking. Chapter 4. Part 3. Observing the blonde and giving her privacy when needed. He is not a peeper. Thank you very much. Marco found out that she is similar to Ace in many ways than one. One can think that she's AD with all those ramen cups discarded in one corner of her kitchen. Thankfully, she doesn't feed him bird seeds. Day-old breads are more than welcomed. And fresh water. This Ayame-ne-chan comes to visit the girl once every 2 weeks, bringing in a few grocery items and to check if she cleans up her room as needed, since she is still a young lady despite the profession she chooses. A ninja, huh? So is he in Wano or one of its hidden villages? Unlikely. Another source of information for the Phoenix is the older woman talks fondly about his caretaker. She doesn't have anybody. Well, I can probably consider Otou-sama, and that man is one of the very few that truly likes and cares for her. Smiling in nostalgia, the woman chuckled and places a trash bag of empty ramen cups near the door. He may not told me the truth. But I think he knew her parents. Petting him gently, the woman noted idly and rearranges Naruto's books. And despite everything, she always has this reason to smile. To be better than all these people. With a shrug, she looked at Marco, gave him a fair warning. She may get too attached because she rarely has someone or something that she can call her own. And if you need to leave, make sure to do so without telling her. With a firm set of her jaws, the woman stated seriously. She may cry for a few days once you are gone. But it's nothing she can't handle. She is a brave girl. With a sigh, Ayame stood and left Marco on his own musings. Scoffing internally, the pirate may understand the woman's concern about the girl. But since when did he listen to other people's advice? He is a godforsaken pirate, for crying out loud. Watching the girl herself struggle in her studies may be a bit amusing. Hearing her mantra as she puts on a brave front keeps him wondering. And from what he gathered from the woman, the young girl isn't liked by everyone except for a select few. And to satisfy his curiosity, Marco followed and watches the blonde from a distance. He can hear the whispers behind the girl's back. Something that Naruto is also aware of, judging from the slight flinching of her shoulders as she passes through. Hatred. Condemnation. Knowing that there is more to these emotions, Marco decided to be petty and show these people his displeasure. Finally letting the girl hear his voice, he urges her to fight back. Despite his current form, he retained all his abilities. Talking in his phoenix form is another surprise. And attacked the bully that tried to hurt her. Giving him a hopeful look, he lets the blonde to pet him and allowed her tears to fall. Don't you ever let these people step on you, yoi. With a glare directed at the bastard, Marco added in a serious tone and raises his wing to wipe her tears away. You are not what they think you are. So never believe whatever stupid words they say or throw at you. With a sigh, the phoenix snuggled with the girl, not minding the tightening of her embrace. Think of those people that matters, they who really looks at you and not what the whole world want to see. Thanks. Her voice croaked shakily with snot running down her nose. Rolling his eyes at her, Marco jumps to her shoulders and urges the blonde to leave that alley behind. Encouraging the girl to raise her head up high and not the downcast way she often uses. It didn't last though, as she tripped on her feet. The girl giggled in response to his squawking reaction after she fell with mud covering their entire body. Chapter 5. Part 4. Haruka may look like he doesn't care, but he does know the hardships one of his students encounter every single day of her entire existence. But as of late, he did notice some changes. She is far more serious in her studies, something his fellow instructors are suspicious of. Her spars with the rest of her peers are also improving. She even managed to land a solid hit towards Uchiha Sasuke, that year's rookie, who is also surprised by her attack, much to the fangirl's raging reaction, calling out a foul against the blonde for hurting their precious Sasuke-kun.
Yo, quick pause, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're new here, share this video, and tell me in the comments which part you're loving the most.
Ignoring their nagging, he did complimented her that day, and Naruto returned it with a bright smile that reminded him of a familiar face without the whisker marks. She is then swarmed by Kiba and the others, mostly the clan heirs including the shy Hinata, who cheered for her win. Just like always, she haven't stopped her pranking activities regardless of her academic improvements, and catching up to reprimand her has always been a piece of cake. He did meet the pet she is blubbering about the other day. The bird who looked at him like he is some kind of a prey and patted the girl on her head with a wing as it flew off the distance. "Why you, come back here, you traitor." The blonde shrieks out towards the avian, and he immediately took hold of her escaping form. "Oh, hi Iruka-sensei. Fancy seeing you here." Giving the girl the look, he did feel a bit of satisfaction after she whimpered pitifully, looking at the direction her pet flew into. After making her clean the mess she made for that day's prank, he treated her for a bowl of ramen, much to Ayame's teasing look. "Hopefully you'll be able to graduate this time, hem." Cackling madly, the blonde boasts out loud that she definitely muster her new friend, Marco, apparently the name of the weird bird that acts like a human, will peck both of her eyeballs. The father and daughter duo both shook their heads in amusement hearing the aforementioned animal. They parted that night in good spirits. And pass she really did. Even the dreaded Bunshin that she loathed so much, Naruto did overcome that part with much gusto. She did beat the record of another familiar face, a redhead who happened to possess the same name, for creating too many clones that filled the room. They only required 3. Now that he thinks about it, could they be related? Proudly giving her hit I-8, she beams happily at him, not noticing the scowl Mizuki gave the girls retreating back. A bit later that day, and wondering as to why she never showed up after the last examinee left. She did made him promise in front of the Ichirakus to treat her once she passes. Thinking that the girl already went ahead, he finishes his report so that it can be submitted for documentation when he heard a commotion outside. The bird, or Naruto's pet, is screeching at Sasuke for whatever reason. Noticing his arrival, Marco turns and flew right at him. Raising his arm defensively, Haruka gaped when he noticed a Konoha headband held by the bird's talon. "Naruto's in danger, hurry." "What? The bird can. TCH. Now isn't the time, damn it, yoi." Talk. Dread filling his veins, he orders Sasuke to ask for help and rushes to find his troublesome student. Knowing that the bird is following closely behind, Haruka darted towards the forest in the hopes of locating Naruto. And when he found her in the middle of the woods with the scroll of seals wide open for her viewing, Haruka's heart stopped when he heard the wise. A technique from the scroll to guarantee her passing. "What on earth? You do not deserve anything, bitch." A familiar voice blurted out, filled with hate and loathing that he should have expected from everyone else. Dragging Naruto safely behind his back, Haruka glares at his friend. Or so he thought Mizuki was. Unable to stop the truth from Mizuki's mouth, he pleaded Naruto to escape and bring the scroll with her, and fought him. Perhaps this mistake will serve as his retribution for being negligent. Frozen with tears running down her face, Haruka tried to protect her as best as he could and waited for the worst that is yet to come. However, a monster, a voice he isn't familiar with. "Who? From what I can see, all I saw is a girl with big dreams and an even bigger heart." Turning around, Haruka saw a stranger. A tall man, lean and muscular with blonde hair and a rather sleepy look on his face. But despite the easygoing appearance, the intent he is releasing scares him, even if it is directed towards the other Chunin. "You want to know what a real monster looks like?" Smiling sinisterly at Mizuki, the stranger's eyes lit like blue fire and approaches the man who tried to hurt Naruto. "You are looking at one. Here, right in front of you." Ignoring the chill in his spine, Mizuki rushes to finish a set of hand seals and tries to attack. But a leg appeared out of nowhere, angled towards him, and he almost failed to block it with an arm. The force of the impact did shatter his bones. Eyes widening in horror, Mizuki could not even scream when another foot descended upon him. The stranger did not even blink and stares dispassionately at his fallen form. "Why are you protecting that demon? She's..." The man's smirk grew dangerously wider and Mizuki felt his world closing in. This time, he felt a rib break, making it harder to breathe, especially when the stranger added more pressure and... "Stop." The mysterious man turned slightly and saw the girl clutching at his arm. Interested to hear what she is about to say, he allowed a bit of reprieve to his prey, who then drags his pitiful self away from them. Her eyes red from crying while the academy instructor watches silently in the background. Wounded in an attempt to protect his precious student. Both hands shook from emotions as she held onto him tighter. "Someone told me that I should not let others held me back." Sniffling slightly, she raises her gaze from the bastard who tried to kill her, and the last statement she added despite its origins puts a smile on his face. "That anything insignificant must be ignored as long as I have those that matters." Patting her head gently, the man drops on one knee and wiped her tears away. Gently he cradled her face affectionately and smiled. Good. She's finally learning. It is a fresh start. XOXOXOXOXOXOXOX. Author's note. Thanks so much to Whitey Wolf 26 for those kind and encouraging words. No worries though, for I will do my very best. Albeit a trial and error one. Lol. And glad to know that I am improving. Ha. Also a big thank you for all those who take their time to leave some reviews. Very much appreciated. And thanks a bunch for liking and adding this story to their favorite lists. Cheers. Chapter 6. Part 5. Last night's event was so surreal. Naruto wondered if it really happened. The unknown man who came to save them disappeared without a trace. Then Marco flew towards her and she hugs him real tight, the bird even allowed it. She's relieved to know that it was him who called for Iruka-sensei's attention. And despite their assurances, she worries. Clutching her pillow, ignoring the not-so-familiar scent, the blonde burrows further into it. But a displeased noise and slight pecking woke her up. Like always, she fell flat on her face after realizing that it was Marco she is trying to squeeze to his death. Oops. Giving her an unimpressed stare, the bird started preening his feathers and she responded grumpily at him. You're going to be late, yoi. Sticking her tongue out in response, Naruto prepared their breakfast. I wonder who my teammates are. Glancing at her from the corner of his eyes, Marco shrugged his shoulders dismissively. It puzzles her how the said animal can do that, and ate his noodles. The said bird demanded a change of variety and requested a few noodles of her instant ramen and some broth instead of bread. Hannah even looked at him incredulously after she mentioned his request. If your team gave you hard time, let me know. I'll handle them, yoi. Rolling her eyes at him, Naruto finishes her meal and took to the roof via her window to travel faster after giving him a pat as she walked past him. Hoping to avoid Iruka-sensei's scolding for the last time, the blonde smiled after remembering her newly learned skills. She did manage to learn something new from that blasted scroll. Despite being a bird, she and Kiba's older sister still doesn't know what breed he is. Marco also taught her a few things after observing the entirety of the village and its inhabitants, mostly the shinobi ones, for a few days. His lips or beaks are sealed when she repeatedly asks him how he passes his free time. One could say that he is one nosy pet and a very good friend. She no longer considers him as the animal who knows how to talk. That is really a surprise, mind you, since he denies being anyone's summon, which she had found accidentally and trying to nurture until he can fly freely again. And despite the fear that he'll need to leave eventually, Naruto will treasure every minute of their time together. Ignoring Sakura and Ino's bantering at the door, she greeted Hinata with a cheery wave. She may ask Marco later on how they can help the kind Hyuga build her confidence, and sat on her usual seat, ignoring her seatmate's glare. Taking the journal Marco forced her to carry everywhere, she reread the tips and tricks he noted through her barely acceptable penmanship. Even if he can talk, those wings can't hold a pen. Very carefully in case of. That's my seat, so go away. No, that's mine. Aha, she need to make a few changes herein. A hand grabs her pen away and the entire class, finally noticing the commotion in front of them, have stopped their chattering to watch what her reaction is going to be. Taking one deep breath, Naruto gathered her thoughts and looks at Sakura as she held her hand. May I have my pen back, please? As she cannot imitate Marco's eyes, she settled for something Naruto-ish. Calmly, she waited and felt the pinkett waver a bit. But, stop hogging Sasuke-kun all to yourself. Wait, what? Returning Ino's determined gaze after the other blonde blurted out those words, Naruto started laughing out loud and stood to her full height. Sakura may have dropped her pen in surprise, but she hastily catches it. Leaning callously at the table, Naruto turns to look at the topic of this ridiculous conversation, tapping the pen on her chin, trying to understand how worthless their discussion is. Hey Tem. Stopping herself from chuckling, her expression is a bit lighter and she could not stop her amusement from showing through. Her appearance from another's perspective, entirely different. One did thought of it as pleasant. Appealing even. Since when are you owned by someone other than your own magnificent self? Uchiha Sasuke grunted annoyingly in response and looks away, hoping that the slight blush he felt when watching the blonde's expression and how she interacted with his rabid fangirls else entirely. But some did see it, and one of the said observer decided that he does not like it at all. Then a flustered Iruka just came into the room and the boy sitting in front of Naruto bolted up in surprise, hitting the table behind him, jostling the blonde's unsteady lean. Failing to hold her ground, she is not clumsy, damn it, Naruto yelps and topples over. Eyes widening alarmingly, she saw twin black orbs returning her gaze with a dash of his own panic. Seconds later and time stopped. Then there was a flurry of blue feathers blocking Naruto's view. Oomph. Marco. What the heck? Before the Uchiha can grab and throw her bird away while the said animal aimed his sharp talons towards the boy, Naruto snatches Marco back and holds his beak as he attempted to peck Sasuke's face. Not again, you two. Marco and Tem knew each other. Rubbing the bridge of his nose to ease the ongoing headache of dealing with Mizuki's mess and the bird's crazy antics, the scarred Chunin glared wordlessly at everyone, including the avian himself, to sort themselves out, forcing Ino to sit 2 rows up as Sakura already took the vacant seat next to Naruto. Petting to calm the murderous bird and removing the feathers she accidentally took into her mouth, Naruto did taste a bit of ash with the smell of the salty sea. Interesting combination. So that's what Marco smells like, wow. Alright everyone, listen up. Haruka explained that the selection for that year's graduates will comprise of 3 genin for each squad and are going to be assigned under the tutelage of a jonin who will then oversee their training. After giving the children a few parting words, he dismissed them for lunch and to return later on the same room after an hour to wait for their assigned jonin sensei. Taking the stuff he brought in earlier, he waited until his former students piled out. Thankfully, the bird already calmed down, but Marco continues to glare daggers towards Sasuke, with the latter returning it with a look of his own. Haruka chuckled and gave a parting wave at Naruto, wishing the girl lots of good luck. Lunch went well despite Sakura's rejection. Marco's eye squinted dangerously at the girl, but Naruto dismissed her actions like it was nothing unusual. Sasuke, perhaps to taunt him even more, accepted his Naruto's invitation.
Yo, quick pause, smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're new here, share this video, and tell me in the comments which part you're loving the most.
Despite the tension between them, his blonde is oblivious and continues to chat with her new teammate and including him in the conversation like always. And in the span of 3 hours after returning back to the classroom, with the others being picked up by their own jonin senseis one after the other until they are the only group left, the Phoenix already devised 32 ways to kill this Hitaki Kakashi. The man wasted his, or rather their, time by observing the children, and perhaps him as well, while reading a stupid book completely hidden from the 3 genins. An illusion perhaps. Naruto, who had grown familiar with his haki despite not explaining what it is yet, slept while petting him. She knew that if she releases her hold, he might probably attack someone. Which is quite true. Somehow, he learned to ignore the Uchiha, who continues to brood on his own while the Pinkett stares forlornly at them after their arrival, especially when the boy decided to sit beside Naruto again. Spiteful brat. Is he here yet? His blonde asks sleepily, raising her head to look at the clock. The boy doesn't seem to care, but he did frown irritatingly at the door. Maybe something came up. Sakura added and blushes when 3 eyes, 2 humans, 3 if we'll include the jonin in hiding, and 1 animal who is technically a human in disguise, stared at her as if she'd grown a second head or whatever. Preparing kill number 33, Marco finally sensed the man's movement. Nudging Naruto, the girl quickly glances at the other 2 and back at him. With a slight nod, she grins mischievously and took a chalkboard eraser to prepare a welcoming surprise for their tardy jonin sensei. Now that he got a good look at the man, Marco scoffed internally and transferred to Naruto's shoulders. They went up the roof to briefly introduce one another with their dreams and plans for the future. That is after he gave an assessing bored look towards the children. Listening to the dreams of the other 2 put some perspective in his ever-observant eyes. The pink-haired banshee can still be worked out. But the Uchiha brat is slightly alarming. While his blonde, my dream to be a better person for my precious people, pausing slightly, Naruto smiled upon remembering something. It was her real one and not the mask she often shows to all these people. To live my life with purpose, and I thought your dream is to become Hokage. Sakura interrupted and Marco could not stop himself but snaps at her, but Naruto patted him absent-mindedly and glances at the other girl. Well, if I am strong enough to be recognized as one, why not? Placing both hands behind her head as Marco transfers to another perch, she added with humor. Being Hokage means I can protect them better, which is so cool. Oh, and my other dream is to help Marco find his family again. Seriously, his Naruto is making things more difficult. But all the Phoenix felt at that moment is happiness. XOXOXOXOXOXOXOX. Chapter 7. Part 6. Marco does remind Naruto to eat breakfast, purposely ignoring the Hitaki's suggestion. He did remember one of Thatch's grumblings about a good meal before every battle, knowing that the said man will probably test the children for whatever reason. The thought of his old friend and Teach's participation from almost ruining their family put him in a bit of foul mood that he hid perfectly from his human's eyes. Naruto does look suspicious after sensing the change in his demeanor, since she is somewhat attuned to his emotions. He is yet to understand their bond, and perhaps he did imprint it on her. If that's the case, he doesn't really mind though. After watching her leave, he settled comfortably in his nest and waited for his uninvited guests to show themselves. An old man in fancy white robes walked out from the shadows, followed by Hitaki Kakashi himself. The respectable-looking man, with the same presence as Oyaji's, wears a hat that covers most of his face and the kanji of fire written in red. I admit, when Haruka mentioned about a blue bird that took a liking to our favorite prankster, I never expected it to be someone like you, Sarutobi Hiruzen noted, and took a seat near Naruto's dining table. The girl's apartment is tidy, unlike the first few times he visited after Naruto started living on her own. He knows of the Ichiraku's assistance regarding the matter, and for that he is grateful for their presence. Despite how chaotic she is outside her home, her new companion probably did something as well. Marco did not voice out any response and decided to listen since he knew they came here specifically for him. They did wait for the girl to leave him on his own. The pirate did glance towards Kakashi, who frowned at his bland reaction. "Leave us," the older man ordered, as if he isn't just talking to the Jonin himself. "But Hokage-sama," Kakashi protested, and probably the others as well, but the village leader is unyielding. Once everyone, even the ones hiding in the shadows, left, Marco chuckled and looks back to the man in front of him, who removes the hat, finally showing his face. "Ah, you look older, kid. Has it been that long?" "Indeed," Hiruzen admitted and took his pipe out. After dragging a few whiff, he also procures a bottle of sake and 2 cups out of his robes and places it on top the table. Isn't Konohagakure too far from paradise? Finally allowing his flames to reveal his real form, Marco curses out loud upon seeing a different set of hands. And body. A younger one. Is it a side effect for transforming too soon? This is going to be a problem. Yoi, grunting annoyingly, he stood to his full height, testing his limbs, and sat callously opposite the boy, now a grown man who may look older than him because of his current dilemma. "I do not think so," the man stated in a good-natured manner and fills their drink. "I strongly believe that this is some sort of opportunity for all of us, Marco-san." "Oh, enlighten me, Yoi." He does not know whether to laugh or scoff derisively at the suggestion provided, but the boy, old man Hiruzen, did made a point. Now that he can fully control his transformation again, he would be able to interact with his Naruto more physically and… "Let me think about it, Yoi." Marco frowned but ignores the knowing look the man gave him. "I think you already made a decision, old friend. TCH. With a tired sigh, Marco buries his face in his hand and waves at him politely. Giving the pirate some space, Hiruzen smiled understandingly and took a small scroll from his pocket, leaving it beside the man that now looked like a young teen close to Naruto's age, give or take 14 to 15 years old, which will work out real well with his plans. Seeing the phoenix that night did surprise him, especially when he came to Naruto's aid. The same man his team and Tobarama-sensei met on one of their recon missions to explore the world outside the seas surrounding the elemental nations. That was before the said Senju took the hat left by the Shadaime, his older brother. He is also amazed when he saw him that night, as if he never aged for a single day. But looking at him now. Ah, such possibilities. Baruka did mention that it was the bird that called his attention after he forced the Uchiha boy to show him where the kind Chunin's office was. Perhaps his presence here is fated. How he ended up with Naruto among all the people in the village means that the two are destined to meet one way or another. How these two will change each other's lives remains to be seen. But the third Hokage is hopeful. Naruto needed someone to make her feel she belongs and that she's not just a human sacrifice. While Marco needed someone to remind him that he is still a human. Not that being a pirate changes one's perception on life or the value of it. That is all there is to it. That's simple. And add to the fact that the said man-turned-boy is probably the most dangerous individual in the village at present. Not because he is a pirate. And unpredictable. Naruto herself may be another since she contains the strongest Biju in existence, but knowing that she is yet to understand and control the Kyuubi's powers brings a false sense of security in his mind. Alarmingly scary but true. Putting the man's offer for a later consideration, Marco went to look for his blonde kunoichi. Arriving at the training grounds she mentioned earlier, he never expected for the lazy Jonin to attack his Naruto from behind, and if wasn't for the Uchiha's warning, the girl wouldn't notice. With a feral cry and allowing his transformation halfway, he blocked the Hitaki's hands with a leg and angled his body strategically while protecting Naruto's back with a wing, and reverts back to his full human form after setting a foot down. The girl herself fell flat on her face, possibly from the collision. They really needed to work on her balance. "Ma, you are not supposed to interfere." Marco isn't even surprised if the man knew who or what he is. No matter. Eyes glinting angrily, he cocked his head to one side and carefully set Naruto upright and carried her within his arms effortlessly. "Perhaps I shouldn't, but what you were about to do earlier doesn't sit right with me at all, Yoi." Marco. Eyes bulging in surprise as the girl recognizes his voice and verbal tick. He glances at Naruto from the corner of his eyes and gave the Jonin a dismissive shrug. "Don't worry, Yoi. This will be the last time I'll interfere unless," eyes flashing dangerously and his intent flares out that was felt by everyone in the said vicinity despite being directed to the man himself. "If you do something unacceptable that will endanger her life," Marco gave the one-eyed Jonin a serious nod and disappears with a threat. "I will kill you." Scratching his cheek, Kakashi did rethink his earlier actions. Unless he really overstepped his boundaries, he'll need to change things a little bit. Come to think of it, if his sensei is here and knows what he is about to do, he may not be able to survive another day. Don't forget the redhead's reaction as well. "Ah, Kakashi, you are an idiot. Really. .. Flailing both her arms, Naruto tried to remove herself from Marco's grip, and yet, looking at their surroundings, they relocated farther away from the clearing where she tried to take on the Jonin all by herself. Wow, she never even noticed how fast they move. I should apologize, Yoi. Turning at him, the girl stops fidgeting and saw his expression. Unlike his laid-back expression as a bird, his human features is far more pronounced. Setting the girl on her feet, Marco took a step back and observes her reaction. It was you, right? Never expecting her question, the girl approaches him quietly and raises her right hand to touch his face. Marco thought that Naruto would remember his deception. But seems like all she can think about is, you are that man, right? The one who saved me and Iruka-sensei that night. Shaking his head in disbelief, Marco took her hand and held it firmly as he gave her a contemplative stare. Of all the things you can ask or say, that is all you remember, Yoi. Grinning sheepishly, the girl laughs at his reaction. Well, I do have a lot of questions, like how you look younger or transform into a bird. But I don't think that now is the right time to ask them or whatnot. True. So he gave her a pat in the head like he always did even as a bird phoenix, and she returned it with a glower. He will definitely tell her everything. It is the least he can do. Go teach that man a lesson, Yoi. You bet, Datbeo. Chapter 8. Part 7. If it wasn't for Naruto's quick thinking, the newly dubbed Team 7 would barely pass the bell test. Kakashi congratulated everyone and explained the ideals he's been following diligently and hoping to pass it on to this particular squad. After giving everyone a few key reminders for tomorrow's tasks, Kakashi left with a wave. But not before giving Marco a dirty look. The Phoenix also saw the others leave, ignoring the Uchiha's questioning look and Sakura's intrigued stare. After sensing the last of their audiences set off on their own, especially these shadow lurkers, shinobis that hides from people and wear porcelain-like masks covering their entire face, unlike Kakashi's face mask who's been following him since he first transformed back to his real form after his unexpected arrival to Konoha, Marco turned to face his Naruto. The breeze surrounding the clearing near the stone obelisk is quite refreshing. Calming even. Well, playing with her fingers, Naruto slightly bowed her head in shame. Now that I think about it, the family you were referring to are also humans, right? Covering her face, his blonde babbled on and apologizes for mistaking everyone from the crew as birds. Chuckling, Marco stopped her tirade. Seriously though, aren't you going to ask me why I didn't tell you that I'm a human, Yoi? As they aren't in a rush to go back, their pace are slow and steady. Well, you don't really need to. And knowing what your condition was when I found you, I kind of guessed that you were in a fight or something. And that alone isn't pretty at all or even worth mentioning, yeah. Nodding, he tugs her hand just before they pass the edge of the training grounds. It was a stupid war that almost took apart everyone. With a tired sigh, he leaned back towards the bridge and stares at the darkening sky. They used a brother's existence as an excuse for their hatred and so-called justice. It's almost twilight. With an understanding look, Naruto leans beside him and held his hand tighter. And you took the blunt end of that stupidity and sacrificed yourself, didn't you? Yes, I did, Yoi. They continue their trek back home in companionable silence. It felt really nice, Marco thought idly. He did what? Giving Naruto a droll stare, Marco took another bite from their breakfast. He prepared a few slices of bread with the girl's abundant supply of instant ramen. Seems like he needed to do something about their meal for the upcoming days. Now that he don't need to hide, he can use his real form inside her apartment. He might have shown it to the others, particularly Team 7 or the academy instructor, but whatever. Not that he cares about what they think. I'm technically a stranger in your village with no papers to support my stay, Yoi. Giving him a stink eye, Naruto carefully reread the scroll left by the old man. So you still need to transform into you bird form. Phoenix, Yoi. Yeah that, face scrunching incredulously, Naruto's eyes widen in annoyance. And you will only revert back to your human form in the presence of any genin or the Jonin sensei of Team 7, a few selected people, possibly Iruka sensei or the Hokage himself, and cannot show your true self unless you are inside our who. What the heck, you sly old man. He is wearing one of Naruto's oversized button-up shirts which he left half opened as his usual get-up despite Oyaji's mark disappearing, which is expected in every rebirth. His belt, light blue sash and pants are the only possession he had left, which is more than okay, a bit bigger though. He was able to procure, stolen, a pair of shinobi sandals and pants that fits his size with a few mending here and there, ever thankful for Ayame-san's involvement in Naruto's life. And regardless of being confident with his physical appearance, he prefers not to walk around half-naked since he is still in the presence of a young lady. A peculiar sensibility that made his brothers laugh when they learned of his weird habit towards the opposite sex. His hair though, it grew longer again. How very annoying. Slightly poking the girl on her forehead, he did explain the pros and cons of the said arrangement. Besides, despite what happened yesterday, he still doesn't trust anyone, especially the silver-haired Jonin, except for the academy instructor. So he will not show his real form unless absolutely necessary. Boot Marco, Naruto continues to whine until they pass by the red bridge and arrives in Team 7's meeting place. It was a bit early as the others are yet to arrive, so he urges the girl to start warming up. The aforementioned Jonin is nowhere in sight and probably busy with whatever stuff he is doing that he won't possibly break despite his new responsibilities. Come to think of it, from one of his numerous strolls across the village, he did remember the said man spending most of his mornings in front of a stone monolith. The very same memorial stone he mentioned yesterday to the children. Avoiding a rock thrown at him despite the downtime from pirating, he still has to sharpen and improve his haki. Marco gave the Uchiha an unimpressed glance and transferred to another branch. What now, Yoi? Why didn't you tell me that you're a human in a disguise? I'm not obligated to tell anyone anything, brat. Glare intensifying, Sasuke crosses his arms and continues to wait for an explanation. You came at me that day asking for help. So you owe me one, Marco-san. The boy is trying to be polite. Hey. Knowing that Sasuke won't stop, the Phoenix sighed and looked at him pointedly. I didn't know that I can already transform back to my real form, it just happened, alright, Yoi. Disbelief clear on Sasuke's face and was about to ask another question when Sakura appeared through the foliage. With a huff, the boy turned his back away from him and brooded on his own tree. The Pinkett greeted the Uchiha but was ignored as usual. As expected, stupid Hitaki arrived 3 hours later. While the Genins of Team 7, they were convinced by the Phoenix himself to train with Naruto somewhere else. He did bribe them with some haki training. Not that he explained to these two what it is except that it will help them in their chosen career. Their location, a place that Kakashi or his summons had a hard time locating. It did took 5 hours and that was after Naruto accidentally loses her concentration much to the dismay of the other two. Marco is trying to teach the trio to contain it, something they can use to hide from anyone that can sense chakra, like that stupid Jonin sensei of theirs. The one-eyed Jonin did complain how a bird is stealing his cute little Genins much to the bewilderment of Kakashi's peers. Hiruzen did find the entire situation highly amusing. Chapter 9. Part 8. Ever since Team 7 was established, it is always divided in two. Well, we have Marco's and Kakashi's. Surprisingly, Haruno Sakura grew comfortable enough with Marco that she can now joke with him. A new perch for the Phoenix if we need to be more specific. And after getting to know her blonde teammate, the Pinkett knew that the rumors surrounding Naruto are just hearsays and disregards the warning her mother reminded every single day she left their house. So she decided to follow her heart and befriended the other female member of their squad much to Marco's approval. While Uchiha Sasuke is, well, the said boy got this growing animosity towards the Phoenix for whatever reason only known to him and sometimes prefers to wait for their tardy Jonin sensei than join the girls on their impromptu warm-up sessions. It's called training, damn it. Watching the two train always put Temur Sasuke in a foul mood, especially when he noticed Sakura's improvement. Thankfully, Marco did not provoke him any further and gave the boy a few tips surreptitiously. And perhaps the Phoenix does need to make peace with the silver-haired Jonin as he is more than qualified to train the children with their shinobi ways. But that doesn't mean he's okay with Kakashi's sluggish behavior. So he kept himself busy with other things whenever the children are on a mission. Village chores that freaked out his human, as Hiruzen provided some maps that he can use to track his way back home. He did avoid letting Naruto see him work on these maps despite the cheery disposition she showed after the old man gave it to him while she was busy eating dinner. The mask she previously wore before she met him rarely shows itself, which is quite a relief. Alright team, for today's mission, try to give us the Tora mission again or I will end you. Naruto's own haki, or what shinobi's calls as killing intent, may be similar to a conqueror's but is entirely different to an extent. Compared to what she can do before, the said ability also improves drastically much to his astonishment. Their morning exercises while waiting for the tardy Jonin did help despite Sakura's initial horror. Sweat dropping at Naruto's reaction seconded by the Pinkett's glare and Sasuke's annoyed stance, Kakashi reluctantly gave in and requested for a different set of mission. Ah, can someone bring in Tazuna-san please, the kind village leader called out as he introduces their new client. Looks like Naruto's next job is an escort mission to the bridge builder's hometown. Seems like this guy is also from the sea just like you, Marco, Naruto whispered conspicuously upon smelling the man's scent the moment he entered the room. Kakashi sighed dejectedly hearing her side comment. Is that so, Yoi? Marco muses interestingly ignoring the stupid sensei. All he did smell is nervousness that was overshadowed by the alcohol the said man drank prior to that meeting. Highly suspicious indeed, so he went along, chaperoned Naruto's first trip outside the village. The way to the old man's village, located in Nami no Kuni, went acceptably well despite Kakashi's assurances and the interference of some rogue ninjas. Marco did roll his eyes at that though. Naruto may have frozen at first and the one-eyed Jonin being a prat that he is, cast an illusion making everyone believes that the two of them are attacked and killed. His blonde kunoichi did blank out after seeing his feathers coated in blood and Marco finally saw how she is as a shinobi when her eyes turned feral in anger. As promised, he did not interfere even if Kakashi was caught by another weird-looking ninja. Fighting on top of the lake looks promising but he will not even attempt to do so. Not with his devil fruit and all its weakness. Marco carefully observes how the children, specifically his Naruto, reacted with the said threat and may have added a few non-existent grays on his hair when she attacked one Momochi Zabuza. To be exposed to the life she has chosen and how she dealt with it did impress the Phoenix, especially how well she worked with the other brat. It doesn't change anything what he felt though, and he still has this urge to wrap her in a blanket and take her away from this place. He is certain that his brothers and sisters, especially Izo, the nurses and their ally Whitey Bay, will like her. Seems like being a pirate is a much better choice than being a ninja. Not that it is a safer occupation. If only he can convince her. The bridge builder may have fabricated some information about their mission, but knowing his blonde kunoichi. I'm going to help you, Tazuna Gigi, whether you like it or not. Believe it, the girl declared with conviction as her team watches by cautiously, mostly Sakura. Sasuke even nodded in affirmation with Kakashi's slight reluctance and a hint of pride. Ah, his Naruto is growing up too fast. Damn it. Chapter 10, Part 9. Arriving at the bridge builder's house comforted Marco as they are welcomed by Tazuna's family. That way, Baka Kakashi can recuperate. Despite his idiocy for being trapped, even allowing the children, especially his Naruto, to interfere their fight, the Phoenix almost assisted the Jonin against the missing Kiri Nin. But his human held him back through their bond. And she fought so well that it terrified him to an extent. Sasuke helped, so it did make matters a bit more acceptable. And Sakura guarded the bridge builder while he watches real close, ready to interfere if needed. Kakashi just have to deal with it, but he will never allow the children, especially his blonde, to get hurt if he can still prevent it. After the interference of another suspicious-looking ninja, the bastard fainted after exhausting his chakra. Probably because of those flashy ninja techniques he used and that red swirly eyes of his. Marco does admit that the bastard's eyes reminded him more of Mihawk's eyes. While Sasuke is already quite livid on how his sensei got their clan's dojutsu. He did reprimand the boy to stay calm and Marco. His heart stopped upon hearing that voice. It can't be. Oh my god, why are you in that form? Smaller. And why are you sitting on that girl's shoulders? The voice exclaimed outrageously, who tried to grab him away from Naruto. But her reflexes and worry after sensing the Phoenix's confusion led her to raise her arm defensively, preventing anyone from coming near. She took a few steps back away from the group, ready to bolt out if needed. Hold it right there, mister. Tugging Marco close to her chest, Naruto glares at the man who made her friend uncomfortable. For whatever reason, she could feel his confusion, pain and happiness. The said man is taller than Marco, remembering the first time she saw his real adult form, and very well built. He also has a scar under his left eye. His features are softer, kinder, against the Phoenix's aristocratic ones. No, for Marco may look snobbish at first glance, but one would say that he is one elegant creature. He's a freaking Phoenix, for crying out loud. But no matter. Until she can determine this threat, she will not let him approach her friend. It's alright, Yoi, the blonde can see the tears in his eyes. It made her fluster more. I know him. With a shaky breath, Marco turned and looked at the man who came to welcome them. Seems like Tazuna does have a lot to answer for, alright. He is Thatch, my closest friend and fellow commander. Oh. After they settled in with Kakashi-sensei using one of the extra futons to rest in Tazuna Gigi's spare room, she urges Marco to go and talk to his friend. Hesitantly, he flew towards Thatch's shoulders after the said man placed a full tray of meal that they can share with everyone. He did gave her a warm smile. Nothing to worry about, missy. I'm just borrowing this bird brain bloke for a little while. Sasuke chokes on his drink after hearing the name calling. But Marco glared though. It did lift her spirits for a bit. And return him after, ouch. Oh alright, will you stop pecking on me, you feathered mongrel, jeez. Sakura and Tazuna did laugh at their antics. After the two left, Naruto heard how the bridge builder found a half-dead man floating near the foundation of the very structure he is trying to build. A wound that should have ended his life but miraculously survives anyway. It was the very same bridge that will help his country from Gato's tyrannical rule. It does made her happy knowing that Marco is no longer alone. And yet it scares her. That their time together is. Maybe you should give him a little more credit than what is needed, Dobi. Glancing at her sideways, the Uchiha commented as he finishes his tea and places it down beside his empty plate. Almost everyone are finished with their own servings. He is an annoying bastard that does care for you regardless of what shape or form he uses. Smiling gratefully at him, Naruto started eating. The meal Marco's friend prepared are really delicious. Hopefully this little act of hers wasn't noticed by the bird or Phoenix Atin in question. It really is confusing how to label Marco. Arg. Hoping may be a strong word. Alright. Thatch started as he held him in arm's length just in case he chooses to bail out. No one is here and I did ask Inari-kun to watch over them. By the way, that's the boy from the docks and Tazuna-san's grandson. Now can you transform back so that we can talk? I have so many things to say, and, giving his friend the usual glare, whacked him in the head with a wing and settled comfortably in one of the boulders littered in that clearing. Yes, we do need to talk, especially now, Yoi. Eyes wide with his mouth gaping like a fish, Thatch does mimic the said animal perfectly. What? You can talk. In your phoenix form. Since when? What on earth? Shrugging dismissively, Marco decided to show him another surprise. Allowing his flames to surround his person, he presented his current form. What the fuck? You turned into an infant. How? Throwing a piece of rock at him, Marco crosses his arms frustratingly and waited for his friend to calm down. A baby? As in seriously. 30 minutes has passed as he lets the man walk out his shock from seeing the changes. Hilarious really. All good, yoi. Yeah. Breathing heavily and taking another large gulp of air, Thatch suddenly approaches him and hugged him to death. The idiot. All better. With a small smile of his own, he returned his embrace, finally letting his panicking heart to calm down, especially when he heard Thatch's own heartbeat. That his friend is alive and well. Yeah, everything is going to be alright. Now, he need to make sure that his human won't think of herself as someone insignificant. Even from here, he can feel his Naruto's worry through their bond. Damn it. Chapter 11. Part 10. Just wow. Thatch uttered in amazement as he properly met the girl who saved his friend's life. Ignoring her yelped cry, he cuddled the blonde kunoichi to himself while silently observing Marco's reaction from his peripheral vision. The blonde pirate didn't disappoint, judging from the irritated stare the phoenix gave him. Thank you so much for saving this bastard from bleeding to death. Aw, you really are so cute. I think I'm keeping you. It's like the adult-turned-boy is about to skin him alive. Very interesting. He did notice it earlier and wanted to reconfirm it. But for now, thanking the girl, her team including the Jonin-sensei himself and probably the village leader is his foremost priority. He knew how nonchalant and apathetic Marco is when it comes authority. Tazuna-san was also surprised to know that the bird is a real human masquerading as a pet that can talk. Funny, that one. Although that seems to be the case at the moment as part of Marco's agreement with their Hokage. And when he learned the predicament these Konoha ninjas Tazuna have requested to escort him back home made things a bit more complicated. He should have finished the midget when he had the chance. So why didn't you, yoi? Marco asks while watching the other brats and his Naruto climb trees without using hands, controlling whatever energy that is, or so he heard. Fascinating, the chakra thingy. In Marco's newfound hobby called Naruto stalking. I kind of promised Tazuna-san not to interfere since I am technically a visitor and to avoid further scrutiny on my stay, especially for the family that found and helped me. Sighing ruefully, Thatch fixes his hair. Inari's trauma aside, I don't want to be the final reason for him to really lose his faith on people, as he cannot do his normal pompadour hairstyle. He opted for a brush-up look. Made him look dashing though, which is nice on most days. Despite my wound healing, I haven't fully recovered yet physically, so I need to be more careful. Marco's flames started to come out from the tip of his fingers as he growled angrily, remembering Teach's betrayal. The air, suffocating even to a seasoned veteran of hockey user like him. So Marco really knows how to use Haoshoku. Mark my words, I'm going to kill that bastard, yoi. Throwing a hockey-imbued rock at the teen earned him a more menacing look. If he were a lesser man, his life should already been forfeit. But this is Marco, and regardless of his youthful appearance, life is so unfair, is the same man he sailed along with, bled with and continues to treat as a nakama. A brother in all but blood. But no excuses though. Careful there, you're making her twitchy. Instantly, the heavy feeling in the air dissipates and Marco's gaze zoomed immediately towards the other blonde. Strangely enough, Naruto-chan somehow felt Marco's anger despite the distance and falls on her hind as she curses the damn stupid tree, ignoring Sakura's teasing laughter and the Uchiha's resigned sigh. The connection between these two is something he never expected to see. Knowing how his friend will react, the phoenix, he still cannot believe that he looked so much younger than Haruta, transforms as he stands and approaches the three while perching on the aforementioned girl's shoulders. I'm assuming you learned something very important, Thatch-san. He almost forgot about this one, although he did remember the said Jonin sitting in the opposite side of the clearing near the children. Keeping his distance far away from the temperamental mother hen. Sneaky ninja bastard. Laughing good-naturedly in response, he picked the satchel beside him and took a few slices of bread he baked earlier for today's training snacks. He handed some to the masked shinobi, not even wondering how the man will eat with that mask of his. Despite the poverty this country is encountering, he was able to teach Ms. Tsunami and a few others to be innovative, since they do have a vast array of land for harvesting various produces. It helps make living under Gato's tyrannical rule bearable. Of all the years I've known Marco, this side of him is something I never thought to see or experience firsthand. And this is my second life, can you imagine that? It does put a smile on his face knowing that Marco found someone to care for aside from the crew. He cannot really wait to tell everyone about this. Ace is definitely going to freak out. He is also certain that Oyaji will like the girl as well. With all her quirks and the crazies. She'll definitely belong. So, a pirate huh? He never really told you anything. From what he observes between these two and the blonde's reaction towards the said ninja, Marco hated the Jonin for whatever reason. Kakashi's lips is sealed as well. Very suspicious. Although the 1st Division commander did tried his best to get along for Naruto's sake. Well, he is trying to steal my cute little Genins, you know. Responding with another boisterous laughter, Thatch invites the other man to sit down with him for a chat. Getting the juicy details from the pirate in question is futile, so he decided to get it from another source in a very inconspicuous manner. He can deal with Marco's threats later on. And the blackmail materials he can gather against his brother, yes, totally worth it. The question remains, Marco won't probably kill him again. Right. Interlude, Inari. Eyeing their visitors, especially the blue bird sitting on the girl's shoulders in an assessing manner, Inari later learned that the avian disguised pet, whose name is Marco, happens to be Thatch's friend from the same crew, the Whitebeard Pirates. At first he cannot believe that he is the very same man from the stories Thatch told him. The said phoenix always accompany the blonde ninja wherever, and it makes him curious. So he decided to spy on them and observe what the fuss is all about. Thatch did teach him a few things. Things no ordinary civilian can. He also knew that his presence in their lives is temporary. Just like that man, it is a fact that he already accepted. That when the time comes, Thatch will leave one day to be with his family. His nakama. And he will not hold it against him. So he made a request from the said pirate to teach him how he can be someone that can protect what is important to him. Thatch obliges indulgently. So right now, he is watching the three young ninjas from afar, especially the girl who boisterously called herself Naruto. Marco did notice him a while back, and the pirate observes him in return, looking at him with a curious tilt of his gaze as he absent-mindedly corrected one of the stances the girl made on their warm-up exercises. As expected, the visiting ninjas are training at the backyard of their house. Ah, come on, do it again, yoi. Boot Marco, you really are Adobe. The other boy, Sasuke, commented despairingly. Shut the hell up, you bastard. TCH. Inari cannot see anything special about her, so what gives? Chapter 12, Part 11. Knowing that Naruto trained all night and slept outside didn't feel right with him. At all. Especially now that they confirmed the rogue nin's condition isn't what everyone thought at first, and that Zabuza may still be alive with his accomplice running around somewhere. Thatch did give him a frustrated look and pushed him outside the kitchen so that he can personally look for her. Following their bond, he did find her in the clearing a few meters away from the bridge builder's house. Naruto is sleeping soundly with scrapes on her skin, particularly the fingers. Face palming as Marco attempts to compose himself, he woke her up after deliberating for a few minutes. Rubbing her sleepiness away, Naruto did notice something different, especially when he remained silent. Even without the words, the female Jinchuriki can sense his displeasure and that her face slowly lost its color upon seeing his expression. Let's go back, yoi. With a sigh, Marco ran one hand over his tresses and turned his back without noticing Naruto's stupefied reaction. Shuffling behind him, the girl walked quietly as she gritted her teeth in annoyance. Marco still doesn't say anything, but because of their so-called connection, she can feel his irritation. She stopped after a few strides, but the older teen went ahead. Crossing both arms, she tapped her foot and waited for the phoenix to notice her absence behind his back. It didn't take long as he slightly turned his head back and looks at her in his usual lackadaisical expression. That was the last straw, and Naruto saw red. I don't know what I did wrong for you to be mad at me, Marco. Fist clenching, the blonde raises her chin in defiance. So unless I suddenly learned how to interpret your wordless mannerisms, I will not understand anything unless you tell me. She isn't as smart as Sakura. Or a genius like the Tem. But she can be quick-witted if given the opportunity and proper guidance, except for the genius part. She does admit that she isn't one no matter how hard she tries. It's nothing, yoi. Staring at him incredulously, Naruto set her mouth firmly and tried to guess, knowing how idiotic that may sound. Perhaps if what she thinks is the reason for his actions are at the moment, better to get over with it and save herself from heartbreak later on. Taking a deep breath, she puts on her old mask, unknowingly, despite the frown he gave her. Well, if you are going to worry about me, you don't really have to, ya know. Crossing both arms behind her head just to hide the shaking she felt in her limbs, she added confidently, even if it sounded so different from her ears, I'm a ninja. So I can perfectly take care of myself. Just like before you came into my life. She cheerfully smiled at him. An act. So yeah, rubbing her nose, damn it, don't fall now, tears. Naruto quickly gave his face a cheeky look and turns around. Gosh, I'm starving. Did Thatch-san prepare something delicious again? Ah, can't wait. Naruto. Steeling herself, the blonde glances at him from the corner of her eyes and started walking away. If he decided to stop her now, she'll ignore him anyway. Her tears are, I'm really glad to have met you, Marco. Her tears started falling as she waves a hand in farewell without looking back. Marco knew that something went wrong. Remembering their conversation makes him wonder what he missed or should have done. And that smile. It was the same smile Naruto uses when she pretends to be okay, which means, alright bird brain, tell me, what did you do? Even they noticed it. I'm not sure, yoi. Earlier, Kakashi looked at them quizzically as Naruto sat in between Sakura and Ms. Tsunami, ignoring her designated seat beside him. She's not even looking at his face or general direction. Okay, bastard. Spill. I said I don't know. Startled, Thatch looks at him disbelievingly as his temper snaps. It was a first. As the eldest and possibly the oldest member of the Whitebeard pirates aside from Oyaji, Marco rarely show any emotions. Marco gave a weary breath and avoided his friend's piercing look. Thatch did find him at the highest roof of the bridge builder's house overlooking the lake. The ocean breeze, almost similar to the winds in paradise, are gentle, yet it didn't help soothe his worries at all. I know that you rarely talk, especially when you are brooding, just like now. But this is different, man, Thatch noted as he sat beside him. For some unknown reasons, the girl can sense your emotions. And from what I have gathered these past few days after observing the two of you, she is dependent to you and you to her. Covering half of his face, Marco gave him a noncommittal shrug. I don't know what you're talking about, Yoi. Fine, deny all you want. Crossing both arms, Thatch stares at him seriously. But I don't think you can settle this just like how you normally does with the crew, Marco. Waving one hand in front of him just to make his point, you did told me earlier that she never had anyone in her life. That the people from her village used to ignore her like she never existed. As if he doesn't know that. Giving him a pat, the 4th Division commander of the Whitebeard pirates added informatively, people like her needs to be reassured, especially if she never had someone in the first place. So, she's scared, Yoi. Exactly, wait, what? With a sigh, Marco turned and finally looked at his friend. Now that you are here, she thinks that we're going back with the others. Shaking his head, Thatch looks at him disbelievingly. Nah, I don't think so. Alright, humor me, Yoi. Nope. With a popping sound, Thatch tugs his face and then squeezes it to satisfy his annoyance. I'll let you figure this out yourself. Ah, I can't call you Pineapple Head anymore. How did you outgrow your hair? So freaking weird, he is so used to the Phoenix's shaved hairstyle. But right now, seems like the rebirth process regrown everything. He's not going to think about the hole in Marco's chest courtesy of that magma bastard. How peculiar this devil fruit really is. Slapping his hands away, Marco glares annoyingly at him and stood. Since he is physically younger and haven't gotten his growth spurt yet, he barely reaches Thatch's shoulders. Being a child sucks since he's always been a late bloomer, which is the only thing he can remember from his past. Fine, I'll do this myself, Yoi. Eyeing him suspiciously, Thatch shrugged his shoulders and blew him a raspberry. Rolling his eyes at him, Marco walks towards the edge of the roof and jumps while transforming into his phoenix form midway. For whatever reason, he can now control his flames, when to call them out or vice versa. He did have a fleeting glimpse of Sasuke and the boy Inari, both looks at him in surprise seeing his transformation up close. Ignoring what their reactions will be, Marco lets his flames surround his form as he flew away. A temporary escape. Just like before, he lets the wind help him collect his thoughts. He cannot leave it like this. Naruto is. Thatch is right. She's already a part of this new life. They have this bond he failed to understand at first. And he will not allow a single disagreement to ruin what they share together. God damn it. Naruto did knew that her response that day is somewhat childish. But, how would I know what he's feeling if he is not being vocal about it? With a flick of her fingers, she threw a kunai at her target. Setting up various marks on that clearing will help improve her aim according to her journal. Sasuke is even impressed after accidentally looking at her notes. And when he learned that it was Marco who forced her to write the entries in it, since she doesn't know he's a human at the time, he eyed the phoenix speculatively. Boys and their obsession to get stronger, crazy really. After blowing up some steam, she collected her bearings and decided to call it a day. Her tree walking exercise seems futile, as Sakura did suggest to calm her thoughts before trying again. But how can she do that if Marco is being an ass about what he needs or wants? She doesn't even know if she really did something stupid that day which made him angry. Or irritated. Was it the training? Whatever. Unlike the Tem where she can draw a diagram about what his expression means or how that smirk of his made him an utter bastard. Marco is a complete mystery. Knowing that she needs to focus made it difficult to do any other training. The said teen even failed to include tips about calming oneself when faced with unknown feelings and emotions. Shrieking wordlessly, she drops to her knees face down, letting the ground to receive her frustration. Maybe the ground will eat her whole or make her anger disappear. I don't think sleeping on the ground is sanitary, miss. Regardless of her internal struggle, Naruto knew that whoever owns this voice means no harm. Her threat senses didn't raise any alarms, so she replied conversationally, but the grass muffled her words. She didn't turn but felt the owner of the voice chuckle as he or she sat in a respectable distance after placing something down. If he's here, Marco will probably look at her disappointingly for her lack of self-preservation. Well, it's a good thing he isn't, because she doesn't care what the fuck he is thinking. Sighing dejectedly, the blonde raises her gaze, sorry about that, and saw the most prettiest face even more attractive than her Hinata-chan. Whoa. Blushing slightly, she scratches her cheek and smiled at the girl shyly as she sat properly and waves at her in greeting. The pretty girl returned her smile genially. Nothing to worry about, miss. The girl's name is Haku and they talked about anything random and all that. But then, I see that something is still bothering you, Naruto-chan. She tried to divert her inquiry away. Naruto opens her mouth but freezes when Haku showed her a familiar blue feather. I did see a bird watching over you from that direction. Pointing towards the forest along the tallest trees, Naruto huffs at the said knowledge but avoided it all the same. I may have unintentionally heard you earlier about someone who doesn't know how to express themselves in words. Assuming that it is the reason why you are freaking out. I'm not freaking out. Yes, she is emotional. And perhaps irrational, but she isn't freaking out. Period. We do tend to overlook the simplest things and it often causes misunderstandings that sometimes leads to pride taking care of everything else. The other girl noted with a hum and slips a loose strand of hair behind her ears. Taking her hand, Haku places the feather and gently closes her fingers around it. It doesn't make us less of a human to admit our mistakes. With a pat on her head, the other girl smiled at her. It helps nurture a bond and makes it stronger than the rarest stone in the world. What if time is limited? Playing with her hair, Naruto noticed that her tresses are getting longer. Should she cut it? Will it still be worth it to hold on no matter the distance? What if I'm doing this to save myself from losing him? Her eyes focused on Marco's feather. She don't know if she will still get the chance to see his full phoenix form with all the flames associated to its mythical name. Understanding lighting Haku's features as she stood up after picking her basket. Getting hurt has always been a part of loving someone. To do whatever we can for the people we care about. To make a sacrifice, even if it hurts, makes us foolish, even if it hurts, and makes us a fool. Love, what does she mean? That she, for our precious people, I am willing to do everything, even at the cost of my life. Haku gave her shoulder a firm squeeze and a sad smile as she turned to return to her master's side. That's still very confusing. Interlude, Inari 2. After hearing the commotion inside their dining room, Inari yelled angrily towards their guests. You are all going to die if you stay here. Thatch watches in alarm while his mother and grandfather gave him a sad look. Marco did glance at him briefly as he returned his gaze to the girl who stood abruptly in response to his outburst. I'm not afraid to die, but if you want to sit down and cry until nothing's left, no one's stopping you. But I won't let Tazuna Gigi shoulder the fate of this entire country all by himself, especially if I can do something about it. Naruto glares at him sharply and Inari felt the weight of her words crushing down on him. The phoenix places a hand on her shoulder as if to calm the girl. The heavy feeling did ease slightly. But the tension is still there. The others, especially the teammates, are surprisingly quiet and watches their interaction. I had enough of people assuming whatever fuck they think of me. Not that I care, but she turned to look at Marco and gave him a small nod. I do what is right. And I don't care what you or everyone else thinks. Not that I have to prove something. With a small grin, Naruto bowed her head and thanks his mother and Thatch for the meal. I just wanted to help someone who decided to make a change even if it is this small. She glances at his grandpa fondly and then back to the phoenix. Just like the chance that was given to me. With a huff, the blonde walks past him and went outside. Well, whatever. Loser. Surprisingly, the orange book her sensei always carry is nowhere in sight and that he's currently observing everyone's reaction, especially him. Inari held his ground and gave him a defiant stare. Marco sighed and followed the girl. But before stepping out the door, he did stop in front of him and Marco, Thatch called out warningly, but the teen waves him away. Looks like I should not compare everyone to my Naruto. You're Naruto. Ignoring Kakashi's snarky comment, Marco shrugged as his eyes become steely when he looks down on him. I suppose we are lucky enough that I have Oyaji, my brothers and sisters, while you have your mother and grandfather. With a small smile as he remembers everyone from their crew, the blonde added in a flat tone. While she has no one. But it didn't stop her to start making bonds. Marco looked at her team and gave the Jonin a frown that Kakashi returned with a peace sign. I won't let anyone, not even you, to get in the way. I said that's enough. Thatch blocked the teen from his view. Slowly, he was able to release his breath. It is still suffocating, but the older man was able to shield him from Marco's penetrating gaze. He's just a kid, Marco. A brow raises in question, the phoenix looks at his friend. His demeanor never changes and Inari worries. Would he fight Thatch because of him? Guilt started to gnaw its way into his heart as he clutches Thatch's shirt from behind. From where we're from, kids his age have already spilled blood. Do not baby him, Inari paled after hearing that. I'm not. With a sigh, Marco rolls his eyes at his friend. Bile rises in Inari's throat and tried to tug Thatch away from the phoenix. A smirk appeared from the teen's face as he noticed his action. Right. Later then, Yoi. As he left, the heavy feeling went with the phoenix, much to the relief of everyone else. Disclaimer: this story do not belong to me. The author is The Flaming Feathers and Bloodstained Furs by Zelga Lim Lee. Chapter 13. Part 12. Now that the 1 week wait is over, Team 7 accompanied Tazuna-san to his work in full ninja gears. Naruto should be coming as well. But Kakashi lets her sleep as she trained again last night until the wee hours of the morning. Her endless supply of shadow clones also helped with the building, much to the fascination of the villagers. While Marco Well, he is keeping his distance, which makes everything too awkward despite Thatch's frustration. The two older men know that the Phoenix is watching from afar whenever the children are training, especially Naruto. While the blonde Kunoichi is still not talking to the teen, although she stole glances at Marco when the said pirate isn't looking. The Uchiha is starting to get irritated though. Thatch did promise Kakashi to guard Tsunami and Inari in case of a possible attempt against their lives. Alright everyone, Kakashi started as he gathered his team outside while waiting for Tazuna. If our calculations are correct, Zabuza and his accomplice will probably attack anytime today, so. Huffing in acknowledgement, Sasuke gave a nondescript smirk. Thankfully, Sakura no longer squeals like a fangirl, the only thing he can appreciate from the Phoenix's interference for stealing his genins that one time. The Pinkett did set her jaw firm and nodded confidently. Alright, let's move out. Hi. When Naruto woke up, she thought that they're back in Konoha with Marco sleeping soundly beside her in his Phoenix form. But she's all alone. Then she remembers that she is in Tazuna Gigi's house. And that she is currently ignoring Marco. Not that she is mad at him. But, yeah, right. She did hear some shuffling outside. Palming her face knowing that she overslept with all her leftover gears in her person, she threw away her blanket and silently approaches the window to assess the situation. Thatch and the bridge builder's daughter are being held by some goons while Inari is trying to do something. Knowing that it won't end well, she prepared a replacement to save the boy and attacks, prompting Thatch to move as well. It was over real quick. That was awesome, Thatch-san. Eyes wide with wonder, Naruto could not believe how fast the man moved. It was like, swoosh. And then the bad guys holding him down fell one after the other. Beaming proudly, the pirate laughs in response and glances at the mother and son duo who wrapped each other with a comforting embrace. Go on, I can take it from here, Thatch said as he gave a gentle pat on her head. Nodding, Naruto turned towards the direction of the bridge and was about to rush onward and help the others. Oh, and Naruto-chan. Naruto held her breath, and she might have already anticipated what he is about to say. Marco may be an idiot when it comes to words since he lived far much longer than both of our ages combined. And that he could have forgotten what it was like. The thing is, giving the blonde Kunoichi a kind smile, Thatch knelt and looks at her. She squirmed slightly but Naruto held her ground. Marco really does care for you. With a nod, the girl gave him a skeptical look. He may not remember how to react like a normal human being, but with your special bond, I'm certain that the two of you will be able to figure it out, eventually. The latter added as an afterthought and the girl scowls at him in response. Right. Just as Naruto arrives at the bridge, she saw an ice-made dome shatter with Tem's Kaden Jutsu imbued with Marco's bluish-like flames. However, as the smoke slightly cleared out, she saw Marco turn to look at her briefly. For whatever reason, he can always sense and find her. The Phoenix smiled affectionately at her. And then he fell. At that exact second, Uzumaki Naruto's whole world stopped spinning. At the dark corners of her mind, slitted blood-red eyes opens. Finally. Interlude. Inari 3. I'm sorry. Inari clutches his own fingers as he apologizes to the pirate. He found Marco sitting by the docks as the teen watches the sunset with both feet dangling closely above the waters. Hesitantly the boy approaches the pirate after Thatch's urging. You don't really need to apologize, Yoi. The blonde patted the empty spot beside him, urging the boy to sit. Although I'm not the one you need to talk to or ask forgiveness from. Well, she's not going to bite. Hell yeah, I'm not a dog, ya know. Inari went rigid but looks at the other blonde fearfully who suddenly appeared out of nowhere from his right. For whatever reason, she's looking at him curiously. Sweat started trickling from the side of his face. Minutes passed by, and they started to hear the crickets sang their song. After Marco chuckles in amusement, he bolted out. He did turn back and saw Naruto scratching her head in confusion. I didn't scare him, right? Perhaps you did, Yoi. Wah, no I didn't. And stop laughing at me, you overgrown chicken. Seriously, Yoi. Thatch is a very bad influence. I suggest you avoid him, at all costs. Why? The teen ruffled the girl's already wild tresses in response. Trust me on this one, Yoi. Boot Marku, you are not making any sense. Inari really thought that she's not taking everything seriously. Girls. Chapter 14. Part 13. Eyes widening in horror, Naruto also saw Sasuke's hunched form beside Marco. Numerous needles sticking out of their bodies. The two are not moving. At all. No. Is this the first time you saw a comrade die, Kunoichi-san? The fake hunter nin's voice is distant. It's like all noise faded when she saw her friend fall. Friend, don't be ridiculous. This is the way of the shinobi. We are. Marco is. Shut the fuck up. He is someone precious to her. Startled, the masked shinobi steps back and raises both hands defensively when the newcomer suddenly releases pure malevolent chakra that is starting to be suffocating even from this distance. As an attempt to trap the girl and contain her, she constructed another ice barrier. But in the wake of the blonde's leaking chakra, which is clearly visible from the naked eyes, the dome melted even before it can form. And then she attacked. Feeling the Kyuubi's chakra leaking, Kakashi felt dread in his veins. Not even wondering why Naruto is here. But as one of the very few who knows the purpose of Naruto's seal, he can never fault the Yondaime for creating it in the first place. As to why his student will need the powers of the tailed Biju remains to be a question that still has no answer. He do need to finish this battle as soon as possible. Regardless of the seal being infallible, using it without proper training may endanger her life. I don't understand how you tree huggers was able to keep this brat a secret for far too long. But if someone gets a hold of her and use this power, we're all going to die. Zabuza's voice rang out with his jutsu still in effect. Not on my watch, the famed Jonin thought as he prepares to counter the Nuke Nin's technique. Regardless of what you now know, I won't let you live for another day. With a grim expression, he added with a whisper. Forgive me though, for I'll end this right now. After summoning his faithful Ninkins, Kakashi quickly activated his signature jutsu. Chidori. It was so sudden. Hiku failed to dodge the girl's punch. With her mask breaking apart and blood trickling from the corner of her lips, she pushes herself up wondering why the Konoha shinobi stopped attacking. Her porcelain mask fell until she can feel the wind touching her skin. Stealing her resolve, she turned to look at Naruto's surprised gaze. It was heartbroken. Hiku. Her tears started to fall and the blonde drops her kunai in shock. Why would you do this? Her own eyes softened towards the girl as she recounted the words she told her that day. Remember what we talked about? Naruto wipes away her tears even if it continues to fall and nodded minutely. For your precious person, you are willing to do everything, hands clenching tightly, the blonde added in a whisper. Even at the cost of your own life. Head tilting slightly, Hiku approaches the other girl and kisses her forehead as she wipes her tears away. Taking the kunai she dropped, she held Naruto's hand and closes her fingers around it. After this is all over, I will let you have your vengeance, Naruto-chan. With a tap of her feet, a mirror shoots up from the puddle and Hiku passes by it. But I have one more duty to fulfill. Wait. After the mirror melted, Naruto heard some birds chirping and tried to sense the others. She did notice Sakura-chan guarding Tazuna Gigi. That means, oh no. Knowing that his death is inevitable, Momochi Zabuza awaited his fate hoping that the girl will finally allow him to die. Not that she's trying to prevent it anyway. Kakashi's attack sounded fearsome enough that he could not stop himself from grinning. But, he did sense her presence when the puddle beside him signals her arrival as she rushes protectively in front of him. Damn it. But another body came barreling into them. It was the blonde girl, one of Hitaki's brats. And the very same face he saw in Haku's sketchbook. Despite being on opposite sides, he felt sorry for the other Jonin as Kakashi's eyes widened in horror seeing the said girl in that place. Too bad his Sharingan is activated, for he'll remember the death of his own student by his very hands. Forever. But then it was already too late to stop. TCH. What is she doing here? Move, damn it. Their collision, inevitable. No. He'll never forgive himself if anything happens to her. Her eyes stared at him gratefully as she held the arm that pierces her chest. Not again. He promised to protect her, and yet. Anyone. His hands covered by her blood. Stop him. Why? Why is he still alive? Please. Naruto's eyes widen upon seeing his impending approach. And for whatever reason, she isn't moving at all. She's blocking his path. Fuck. Out of nowhere, Kakashi felt a firm tug on the hand that held his jutsu. Immediately it was surrounded by bluish-colored flames as if it negates his lightning. Fire that is different from the flames made by a Kaiden jutsu. Kakashi was then thrown, separating him from his target, and fell on his back a few feet away. His body sprawled like a rag and the Jonin felt the hard concrete of Tazuna-san's bridge. With a tired sigh, he dispelled his technique. It didn't felt as exhausting whenever he uses it to end his battles. He is relieved though, but just to give anything for the sake of their ongoing argument, he gave the newcomer a not-so-annoyed stare. And you said you wouldn't interfere, A glare with a stiff grunt responded and the said intruder placed a hand on his waist with the other pinching the bridge of his nose just to ease his growing annoyance for the situation they were forced to face. Yes I did promise, you stupid Jonin. Grinning, he took Marco's offered hand ignoring the stupid part. Did I ever told you that I hate your very presence in her life? But not how you manages protect her better than I do. With a smirk, the phoenix nodded condescendingly. When Naruto rushes past him and leaps toward the older boy, as the exact numbers are unknown, he will definitely settle with the current one even if it still isn't acceptable to him at all. Marco catches her automatically. Marco. And Naruto is already bawling her eyes out. IW is so scared I could not breathe. I thought you're dead. So the leak from earlier is because of, wait, what? The girl created needles made from the sea's moisture. It does felt like sea stone, yoi. The what now? But Naruto seems to understand as she wipes her snot away. She did gave him a side look promising to explain everything later. They better. TCH. I can't believe you let this brat become a ninja. The fake hunter nin did gave Zabuza a reprimanding look with Marco calming the aforementioned Kunoichi who's about to bite the demon's head off. But they were interrupted when Gato came along with his hired mercenaries. Judging from the quantity, it will definitely put him in a tight spot. Again, but he did felt colder when the ugly midget threatened to take the girls and include them in his personal collection. The nerve. While Marco is, his bluish-colored flames started to lick from his feet up to his arms until the tip of his fingers. And his eyes. Kakashi. His eyes glows with blue fire. Literally. No honorifics. How rude. Ma, what is it? You won't need this one alive, correct, Yoi? No worries. I know where his important documents are kept. The girl, Haku, smiled sinisterly in response. And all his material possessions. Scary. These two. I can help too. Oh dear. Naruto is really her mother's daughter. Seriously, Kushina-ne-sama is going to be so proud. But Marco, Kami bless his soul, gave her a look and the blonde pouted in defiance. Then how can you see me fight if you're alongside with me, Huh. Realization caught up in his student's eyes as she took out her journal and its pen begrudgingly. Finally, she stays put. So it was really Marco's idea, this scribble of hers. Fine, you'll do it slow. I'll try my best. I can repeat the ones you missed, Yoi. Promise. And then he went all out. No hesitations. Now he knew why he was called that epithet. Not even noticing when the others joined them. He's busy watching the man-turned-teenager obliterating every single man in front of them. Sakura even gasps in shock seeing the Phoenix fight everyone on his own while Sasuke is following Marco's every move. Kakashi did notice the eyes though, as they watch how he fought like a real pirate, someone that knows no mercy. Entirely different from your run-in-the-mill pirates they know in this particular sea. The one-eyed Jonin have this feeling that the third knew and was trying to teach him a lesson. But seriously though, why did they even bother? Interlude. Haku. When she met him, her life started to have meaning. From being unwanted, she became something more. She may be a tool that he can use and dispose if no longer needed, but Haku promised to stand by his side no matter what. But then she came. Uzumaki Naruto may be an enemy that opposes her master, especially his self-appointed mission. However, the Hyoden user saw a heart so untainted by this world they lived in. A heart that is troubled by something so simple, and yet, it gave her a reason to smile. Despite the circumstances, yet she could not stop herself. A simple wish for the other girl to see how the person she cared for values her more than life itself. Ah, the wonders of love, but seems like the other girl does not understand the said emotion at all.